cornerback and I got 2% center. I think the 2% was you.
No, it wasn't me voting on that, but it's probably the way you phrased it, being corner or center. If you'd have said left guard, because I did the same thing, it still went way corner. I think 68% or something said corner. So I'm with you. So kind of surprised at how many people, put that as need number one right now.
Dude, I mean, I am with Zim here. I want Linderbaum all day long. If you get him at center, you have all 5 of our offensive linemen are legit offensive linemen, or legit is fixed. And everybody's killing me with this. Well, Ted Karras is a center. People, Ted Karras played guard more than he's played center. He played guard last year, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, he played it, I think 2 years? Is that what he's actually played center at?
He's played some right guard. He's played some left guard. Left guard last year completely. Center for the Dolphins the year before that. And then when he finally got on the field the year before that, was center and guard. So he is – I think they want him to play center, but I think he wants to be a center too. But I think when it comes to like a Linderbaum, if you get the chance to get him, things change. The reason you sign a guy with versatility and you tout his versatility in a Ted Karras is because that may be something you need to exploit, which means, all right, Ted, you got to go play left guard, which he played last year, and he was fantastic for the Patriots. So I when I look at it, I don't get too worried about where Karras is supposed to play. I've had the same comments, people telling me, well, Zach Taylor doesn't lie, and he said he's a center. Yeah, he's a center right now because he's the best center on the roster. Right. I mean, that's how coaches speak. That's how it works. Until there's a better center on the roster or your best 5, you'll always hear coaches talk about the best 5. The best 5 in that scenario, if you get a Linderbaum, is moving Karras to left guard. And, for the people that don't, maybe watch the film or don't know who Tyler Linderbaum is and why we started talking about him, I think a little bit more recently, like Tony Pauling of the Pro Football Network said he expects Linderbaum to be there in round 2, or if not the last few picks of round 1, which is obviously where the Bengals are. And then we had 2 mocks. I think it was Todd McShay and Charles Davis from ESPN and NFL.com respectively. Both had them taking Tyler Linderbaum at 31. What does Linderbaum do? Who is he? What can he do for you? Why is he so highly touted? And why could he still be there? So that's 2 sides of it. If a guy's so highly touted, how is he still there at 31, right? So on film, when you watch him, super athlete. The guy is, anytime screens, or if he's got to get out in space, or if he's got to climb and get to a linebacker, you're drooling watching this guy. He would be their most athletic offensive lineman easily. And when you see the way he never misses on a second level block, when you've got to work in unison with your guard, get to that defensive tackle, and then peel up and go to that linebacker and seal him off as your running back's cutting behind you, he is perfect. I don't know if I've ever seen him miss on one of these blocks. So like you look at that and you're like, wide zone, this man is an ideal center, looking like Jason Kelsey of the Eagles, former Cincinnati Bearcat, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you got to be able to reach. You got to have that athleticism to reach to get these 3 techs, get out, twist in front of them, torque, get your hands underneath and flip them so your running back can get behind you. Linderbaum, A+ at that as well. Where does he falter? He's only 290 pounds, and he's got short arms. We saw this when he shows up at the combine. He doesn't work out. He didn't even bench press. He's got a sprained foot, apparently, from his last game at Iowa. Because of that, he's got 31 and some change-inch arms on the short side of that. That is like that's off the grid for centers. You want a guy with at least 32, and that would be short. When people talk about Billy Price with short arms, he had 32-inch arms. So we're talking even shorter than Billy Price's arms. And then no workout. I'm against drafting anyone who doesn't work out because I want to make sure I know. I would think he'd be like a 95th percentile athlete. But tape has lied to me before, right? I've thought guys are super athletic and get on the field. You're like, he's not too athletic. I wish he would have tested. That would be the case for Linderbaum. I would trust what I see on film and think he's a great athlete, but those are reasons why he would fall. So you've got a guy who you're worried about his size, not just length, but weight. You're worried about his strength. I mean, he could bench at any time now with a sprained foot, you would think. He hasn't done that yet. And then you worry about him not testing completely and how that affects his draft stock. And that's how you get pushed down. Plus, we should say, because I've had these comments as well, a top 15 player shouldn't be there at 31. That should give you pause. Centers don't get taken that high. The highest centers go 20 in that range, maybe 18 sometimes, maybe 20 in Frank Ragnow's area. Bengals taking Billy Price at 21 is like the maximum you take a center. So like dropping 10 picks isn't that crazy for him.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, before the short arms thing, he was going to be up there in the top 10, top 15. I think for everything that I was hearing.
Yeah.
And I know everybody is when we hear the short arms, it freaks all Bengals fans out because of Billy Price. But like I said, I watched the tape on him, and I'm not as big of a giraffe guy as like you. I don't watch as much tape as you do, but there's certain guys I watch stuff on and that I really like. So I definitely want to watch it. And from what I've seen him, he's a beast. And the Bengals with the Bengals zone blocking scheme, that fits him perfect.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm just like, if he's there, I'm taking him, because all we heard about last year is protect Joe, protect Joe, protect Joe. Well, you got a chance to totally protect him. Why wouldn't you want to do it?
And give him a center he can grow with. Ted Karras is 29 years old. Right. You give him a guy that, here, this is going to be your guy. We see a lot of quarterbacks with their center for like 5-10 years. Mm-hmm. You kind of want that. I'm envious of that. If you want to clean up protections and communication up front, you have the same two guys calling it with quarterback and center for a long time. That would go a long way, I think, in cleaning up a lot of these sacks and miscommunications. But that also is another reason you bring up how good of a fit he would be with the Bengals in that zone blocking scheme is also why he wouldn't fit every team. Right. Because a lot of centers you see that come in the league, they're like, teams are like, okay, we'll play him at guard the first year, get him acclimated, then move him to center before he makes the calls. They did with Frank Ragnow in Detroit. It's one of the things I think the Bengals messed up with Billy Price, was putting him right at center. Linderbaum is a center only because of the size. You really can't put that guy at guard at that size with that length. So when you see that's going to probably rub some teams the wrong way. They're probably not going to want to spend that high of a pick on a guy that can only play one position. And then being zone blocking specific, which I think he is, probably will also burn some teams.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, I know people keep talking about cornerback, and which I think is a need as well. So let's say Linderbaum isn't there. To me, if he's there, I think the Bengals are taking him. If he's not there, I think they're going to take a cornerback. And that brings me to Elam. And I've had guys on here who they love him, where they wouldn't draft him until the third round. Where are you at on Elam? He's the most controversial cornerback I've had discussions about.
Yeah, I like Elam, but I think as the farther I go into this deeper into the corner list, watching these guys, I might like the parts more than the whole with Elam. And the reason is because you like his size, you like his athleticism, I like his ball skills. I like when he turns and runs, has his back to the ball, no panic, and reaches up and makes a play on the ball. I'm like, oh yeah, that's real good. And then you see some other times where I'm like, okay, why are you grabbing this dude? Like, why they press him a bunch as much as any corner, I feel like, in college football. And that kind of carries throughout the entire route where he wants hands on guys and he's going to keep, tugging, pulling, getting to the top routes. I think out routes, comeback routes, hitches and digs. He's just got his hands all over these guys. I think it's 7 penalties in 10 games. You just don't want to be at almost 1-for-1 rate of giving up penalties. It kind of, the way he grabs reminds me sometimes of Dre Kirkpatrick. Mm-hmm. And as a cover guy, and to equate these guys to Bengals players, so I think some general audience can know who we're talking about type, is almost a William Jackson in coverage, right, where it's like, okay, I like the parts, and there's times where I'm like, whoa, that boy looks good out there. He's doing some work. It's hard to beat him over top. Keep testing him because I feel confident. There's other times where I'm like, all right, just give up that catch and moving on to the next play. Okay, then it seems to not bother him to let up an 8-yard out route and just keep moving. I like him and I like the parts. I do think there's some development there, maybe some maturity still to go, and maybe they can turn him into a better player. But I do think he's a press man corner where we talk about fit for the Bengals. Bengals played a lot of zone, right, and they played a lot of off zone. And I think, if you're taking Elam, he maybe enhances your scheme where you can do more man coverage, or they may not like him and say, we may be rather an Andrew Booth, or we may be rather a Kyler Gordon.
Now that brings you to the Booth. That's the other one I've heard a lot about is Booth. Is where are you comparing him to Elam? Which, if you had your choice, I said those two are sitting there, which one would you take?
I would probably take Elam. Both guys, I feel similarly on tape where I like the parts. With Booth, he didn't play a lot last year because of the Clemson and that conference not playing much in the COVID year. Right. So you really got this last year of tape on him. I think he's a strong physical corner, or a guy that's not afraid to come up and hit. He'll take a receiver that's in front of him and block him right into the running back that's going into the flats. He just goes through guys, and I like his aggressive play style. I do think that leads at times to being over aggressive in his coverages, maybe carrying a guy a little bit too long in zone, and also missing tackles. I think at times he lifts his feet and drops his eyes a little bit too much. Super willing tackler. Like, he's not afraid to get in there and be physical. This guy's rocked up, yoked up. He's ready to get in there. But he also misses a lot. And when I was entering the PFF data today into my spreadsheet, and Jake Lisco and I, we combine and make a spreadsheet to try and balance how we feel about these players. The data wasn't kind. I think he was missing 29% of his tackles at PFF. Right. That's 1 out of 3, basically, you're missing.
Right.
I think he had 35 tackles and 11 misses, which that's not great, for a guy that's physical. And I think is a good player against the run, or at least in the physical portions of being a defensive back. He was definitely good at that. I had concerns with his long speed and overall athleticism. I think he would have been an okay athlete and maybe a slightly above athlete. He never tested. So the same logic I use for Linderbaum, where it kind of scares me away. I thought Linderbaum was an elite athlete on tape. Okay. From my history, it looks like guys that don't test, I did a whole study on this as well. Your chances of finding a Pro Bowler on a guy that doesn't test are about 25% chance. If you take a guy that's an elite athlete in the first round, this is just first round. If you take a guy that's an elite athlete, like a relative athletic score of an 8+, you have a 47% chance to draft a Pro Bowler. So if you're going to draft a guy that doesn't test, a guy like a Linderbaum and a Booth, the difference I'm finding in that 25% are, do they look like an elite athlete on tape? Guys like a Nick Bosa, or if they have a bad production score, or guys that don't test, like who was the it's going to nag me now because I just saw his name. A recent high draft pick, a defensive end, didn't test at all, but you're like
for Oregon.
No, not this year. Last year. And I'm trying to remember who it was, but it doesn't matter. Point is that there's a bunch of these guys that when you watch him on tape, you're like, oh yeah, he's an elite athlete, but he's not going to test because he knows he's a top 10 pick. Right. So like those guys tend to work out still. And I think Linderbaum's more of that, where Booth is kind of the one that scares me a little more, because I didn't think he was a tremendous athlete. I don't think he would have tested well. I think he's kind of not testing because of that. Whereas Linderbaum is saying he has an injury, so who really knows? So I actually would probably take Elam over that. I think Booth might be a better fit than Elam. I think Elam could make your scheme a little bit more dynamic and allow you to do a little bit different. I think his upside may be a little bit higher. But to be honest, I like Kyler Gordon from Washington better than both of them.
There you go. But the thing is, I guess the point is, if Linderbaum is there, you're taking him, right?
Oh, for sure. He's going to end up, even without the grade for athletic testing, he's probably going to end up a top 20 guy. We got Greg Luther there asking a question, who would I compare Linderbaum to? I think it is Jason Kelce for the Eagles. And it's funny, too, because you got to look at that and how the Eagles play with Kelce, is they don't let him go one-on-one with big nose tackles that can move. They're like, nah, you're too small. We're not going to let you wreck our offense. They'll actually let the guards help the center. And a lot of time when you watch football, it's the center helping the guards. The Eagles have made a career and said, listen, we're not going to mess you up out there, Kelce. We're going to let the guards help you on these guys if we can, because defenses want to attack your weakness, right? So they know Kelce's not a big dude. We're going to send guys right at him. We're going to put a guy